The government just admitted something that it's, well, probably going to want to keep quiet. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, it appears that according to the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, the corporate run health insurance system is a disaster. And that Medicare for All, they find, would actually solve a lot of the problems that are inherent in our corporate healthcare system. So in fact, the CBO put out a working paper, and I'm going to show you this, where they built on previous studies here that found that Medicare for All, once again, is a better choice for healthcare. So now these are 6 different points here that the CBO found. They analyzed 6 channels of which single payer would affect the economy. It found that the compositions of workers' labor compensation would change because of employers would no longer provide healthcare benefits and would pass along the savings to employees, increasing their wages. Great. They also found that households' health insurance premiums would be eliminated. Yes. The out-of-pocket costs would decline. Yes. Administrative expenses in the healthcare sector would also decline, again, making it cheaper to administer. It would free up productive resources for other sectors and ultimately increase economy-wide productivity. Longevity and labor productivity would also increase as people's health outcomes improved. So, of course it does. Of course. Yes, for workers, guess what? You could work less. Workers would choose to work fewer hours, they find, on average, despite higher wages because of the reduction in health insurance premiums and out-of-pocket expenses would generate a positive wealth effect that allowed households to spend their time on activities other than paid work and maintain the same standard of living. Imagine working less and getting the same amount, not having to spend so much time at work, like maybe with your family. Wow, that would be great. And now they also note that that wealth effect would boost households' disposable income, which they could then split between increased savings and non-health consumption by up to, they estimate by 2030 about 3%. So now they also note, and of course we're going to see Republicans harp on this point, worked hours per capita will decline. Oh my God, I can't believe people are working less. But they find that the effect on GDP would be offset under most policy specifications by an increase in productivity, an increase in the size of the labor force, and an increase in the average worker's labor productivity, and a rise in capital stock. So weird, it turns out like healthy workers are better workers. Workers that can afford their medications, workers that can afford their health care, which includes preventative health care. Yes, very, very important. It turns out it's cheaper and better when you have preventative health care, when you can go to a doctor when you need it, and then you don't have these health problems. And yes, you're a much happier, healthier worker, and that's better for productivity. Who would have guessed? Who would have ever guessed? But it's true. It's true. Now there's more. For states, this would help the states as well. They could respond to the ensuing budget surplus by growing their rainy day funds, at least temporarily, they note, reducing state tax rates, increasing spending on government purchases of public services, or a combination of all three. Look, for a lot of you watching this, you already know all this. You know all this, and I'm not addressing this specifically to you. Anybody who comes across this video who might be a normal, everyday Democrat who's not involved in the political process, watches, MSNBC, CNN, things like that, well, this is for you. Because I know that those channels tend to be against Medicare for All, saying that, oh, the effects, we can't afford to do that universal health care, or, it will have bad effects because it will take away your insurance. Understand that there are industry talking points that go around to a lot of the people, a lot of the pundits on these cable news outlets. They are specifically there to push back against single-payer healthcare, specifically Bernie Sanders' single-payer healthcare plan, which is incredibly comprehensive. They want to push back on that because they work on behalf of pharmaceutical industry executives, as well as health insurance industry executives and their trade groups, their lobbyist groups that are pushing to make sure that we never have a single-payer healthcare system in this country because, well, it would mean that they have no business. It would put them out of business. They would not make any profits. And so that's the thing. That's what we have going on. And that's why it's very important for us to get out the message here. Because again, while a lot of us who watch independent news, we already know all this stuff, this is a surprise to other people who've heard nothing but nonstop propaganda against these healthcare options, against Medicare for all specifically. So again, massive boon for the people. I mean, think about it this way, right? How many people are working jobs just to have healthcare in this country? How many people? A lot, right? I mean, I've read a lot of stories, a lot of personal accounts where you have people that, take jobs and work jobs that they don't necessarily want or, don't really care for. But they do so, and by the way, they do it at lieu of starting their own businesses or just spending more time with their families, with their children. But the health insurance, I can't afford it. I got a pre-existing condition. I can't, I can't afford to do, my own business or do this. I can't afford the premiums otherwise. So I have to stay with my employer-sponsored healthcare because I just can't afford it otherwise. And look, this report noted that as healthcare costs rise, people have to work more and more and more at their jobs in order to be able to afford those premiums or those copays. Now then, imagine if that's gone and you have healthcare that is guaranteed and you can not only avoid working all those extra hours, but also work less while having the same amount of money. Working less for the same standard of living, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want that? I want that. I want to actually enjoy my life while I'm here instead of working 60 to 70 hours. Shouldn't that be the ideal for everyone? I'm not the rise and grind mentality. You only get one life, and I don't want to spend it constantly working. And nobody should. But hey, and by the way, if you want to, well, you can still do that under Medicare for All. This doesn't change that whatsoever. You can still work as much as you want, or you can cut your hours and actually enjoy your life. It'll be great. Now, the CBO study also found that under a single-payer system, households could retire at younger ages, and the hours worked would be lower for most households across the income distribution. Once again, all of these are good things. Under the 5 single-payer scenarios the agency evaluated, they found that a reduction in hours worked would be the largest among lower and middle-income households. So this isn't like rich people being able to work less. No, this is lower and middle-income households. These groups would see the largest percent increase in wage rates and reductions of out-of-pocket expenses and premiums. Higher wages, no premiums, deductibles, less work, free prescription drugs. Hell yes. Yeah, let's go. Let's do this. Why wouldn't we? Why shouldn't we do this? Now, of course, the Republican conservative spin, and I also add in conservative Democrats who are more corporate Democrats. Well, they're gonna look at this as a bad thing. They're gonna try to spin this report as, oh no, you don't understand. We need more people to work more. We want you to work more. And think of the industry executives. Think of the jobs lost in the health insurance industry. We could put those resources into something else, into other things that actually benefit the economy, instead of having basically an entire industry there to scoop profits off the top, to act as a middleman. No, we got to get rid of it. because it's just nothing more than a way to skim money off of regular people and basically make it so that they can't even afford their drugs, or they can't even afford their, doctor visits. And they can't afford that, afford that preventative care that they need. But of course they're going to spin that. But here's the thing. You can't really bury the news like this. When the CBO, which is conservative, by the way, it's run by a Republican right now. When they come out with this report, and they basically are admitting, oh, yeah, turns out this does all this incredibly positive stuff. Oh no, we're going to have to bury this. And that's what it is too. But you can't bury the facts. You can't bury the truth. And this is the truth. They're admitting that corporate healthcare is a problem. Corporate health insurance, big problem. It eats up so much of the average person's money, and all it does is line the pockets of the health insurance and hospital and pharma executives' pockets. Look, you don't have to be a liberal organization in order to accept facts. You can't argue with math. Single payer works. It gives you options. Any doctor, any hospital, anywhere in the United States. There is no in-network or out-of-network. No surprise bills. And yes, you might pay slightly more in taxes, but that's offset by not having premiums, copays, and deductibles. And it saves employers. By the way, it saves business money. If you care about small business, for example, well, there you go. Not only can you create a small business, but if you have a small business already and you want to provide healthcare, you don't have to anymore. That frees up money to be able to go and do other things that expand your business. Or you could, put it into wages or other benefits that are not healthcare. And of course, the other great thing is that you're not tied to your job for that healthcare. That's how every other country does it. They pay less, they get way more than what we do here in the United States. And so at the end of the day, we have to have Medicare for all. It is the only way to go forward. And you can bury the reports, you can bury the numbers as much as you want, but a fact's a fact. And the fact is, single payer, it is inevitable.